everybody, welcome to a different feature on the channel, and this will be Brawl Unlimited, but really it's Brawl Limited. The goal of this is going to be, we're going to be doing a draft. Usually we're going to try to stick to the most recent set in Standard, or whatever sets they're releasing, or sometimes they have the special events where things that have been around for a little while come back for another draft bite at the apple. But basically we're going to be taking the most recent set, doing a draft. This might take a couple drafts sometimes because you're not always, especially in sets with lower amounts of legendaries, you're not always going to get a legendary, planeswalker or creature. Not everything's Dominaria, with, dozens and dozens of legendary things. But basically, we're going to do a quick draft, or sometimes it'll be the more traditional draft. Basically, quick draft is you're drafting bots. They're pre-programmed and predispositioned to draft a particular way, but we're not really too worried about what they're doing. We're trying to build the best draft deck we can. Well, we're not going to play all the limited games. We are going to try to find a game or two where we draft a legendary, we get to see it in action, and then we're going to try to take that legendary and then build it into a Brawl deck. Obviously, in this set, you have the legendary dragons, you have the different Mardu, Teamer, whatnot, legendaries, in addition to you have Ugin. So a lot of different things you can hit that are pretty awesome. That said, we're going to jump into a quick draft and see if we can find a legendary that is worth building around. Tugum. Cast second spell. Cast with 4 time counters on it. If it doesn't... Oh my. That is quite a disgusting card. Narset, Jeskai, Waymaster. At the beginning of your end step, you may discard your hand. If you do, draw cards equal to the number of cast spells you cast. So I'm curious. That is a dang good card. So, the only 2 legendaries are either Narset or Tygum. I am very interested in both of these, but I think for our purposes, Narset's probably a better legendary. Blocked when this creature attacks the one target creature. Dragonstorm is a stupid card. It's 5 damage. Tap up to 1 creature, draw a card. There's different options here. Not going into black. We're trying to stick with colors, so we'll go with the removal spell. Draw a card, then we discard card. Deals 3 damage to target creature. Looks like the best one. Wild Ride. Interesting card, but not the easiest. Tap target creature, excel top 2 cards. Top 2 cards, 1 in your hand. So I'll go with that for now. Discard a card if you do draw a card. That's the Frontierland, Floating Effigy. I think we'll take another one of those. Your upkeep, Surveil 1. Spell costs 1 less each turn. That one's not terrible. library. Definitely going heavy on the Jeskai stuff. Might be too many river wheel sweeps. Control. Creature, -2, -0. So we go with that. So enters can't be blocked. Card selection more than anything. Tap up to one target creature. Not terrible cards, I think we'll take it. Draw a card. I'd rather have the one draw. Search library for a card named Dragonstorm Glue or Boulderstone Dragon. Alright, let's grab our island. So, enter discard 2 cards and draw that many cards. Attacks if there are 7 more cards. You may play that card this turn. New way forward next time. Prevent that damage. Deals so much damage to sources draw and draw that many cards. Take the broken Jeskai card, I guess. Instant sorcery or dragon among them. Creature 16 creature with flying. Lots of good choices, but which one? I think we need to take one of the cheaper cards. We already have a lot of 3s, so as good as Dragonologist is, I think we take it because it's rare, but I think from curve purposes, we might actually prefer the 2-drops. Okay. We'll take the cheap removal spell. And we'll take Agent of the Knife. Cast another spell this turn. Okay. cards are particularly good. We'll take that one. I mean, it's basically a 4-mana play for us. So do we want that, or do we want the stun spell? Currently looking at 10 creatures. We'll take the dragon, I guess. Not a huge fan of these cards, but it is an anchor fill or curve filler at the least. Yep, probably not gonna play that one, but at least it's a card. Sarkhan, Dragon Ascendant. Turn has dragon additions of the types against flying. We do have a couple of dragons in our deck, but I don't know. Might be able to get enough dragons for him. Otherwise, I know we need a lower curve, but so Stillborn Cliffs isn't terrible. Start taking the mana fixing. It's a pretty good one. Creature deals combat damage, gain life, and draw a card. Take Evolving Wilds just to get some mana fixing. Take the counter spell. And take the only blue card, take that, and take that. Alright, so this is the deck we ended up with. We do have Narset in our deck, so this will probably be the card that we end up building around for purposes of our Brawl. I don't think it'll be that good in this deck. Overall, I do think Sarkhan will end up being slightly better in terms of like our deck's construction, because we do have Jeskai Shrine Keeper, 3 Durgar Island Dragon. The other thing, we have a bunch of card draw on this deck with Rolling Dragonstorm. We have Glacial Dragon Hunt, and then we have the stun spells with the Durgar. So This deck should be interesting. The mana might be a little iffy, but let's at least play one game before we get into the Brawl side of things, shall we? Alright. I think we mulligan this one. His hand's a little bit better, but put back one of the Dargans. So I have not played any games of this format at all, so does it die or get exiled or who knows what else? Narset does look like a pretty sweet card to build around, so I'm kind of excited to play that one. So alright, there's our white source. Every day it shuffles back in 3/1/1s. Mobilize is such an interesting mechanic. Keeper. Somewhat, in some ways, it's like a poor man's Dragon Lord Ojtai. Fortunately, we do have to cast it here, so if they have any way to deal with it, they'll just deal with it. Start by casting this. We'll get that so we can get some value out of it with Harmonize. Island. Taking a hit for 7, maybe. Nope. Just a hit for 4. Okay, do that. It's kind of annoying. Okay. How is that worded exactly? To the end of your next turn. Everywhere there be Dargans. So there are knobs on deck. Okay. 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 Good grief. Have to get a little bit lucky here. Start by cycling 7/7. I think we are just ditch. Two, three, four, five, six, 7. Not sure if this is a double KO or if this is a trigger that goes on the stack and then we die anyway. Not sure on that one. Guess we'll find out in a second. Block. Yep, I don't think we were supposed to win that one. We didn't get to see Narset, but we did get to see what a good Jeskai deck is capable of. I'm trying to make some Jeskai Narset work on a budget here. Obviously coming off of the draft. This seems pretty reasonable for what our deck does, so we'll try it. Let's go ahead and cast a Strike Rich. It's on Ning. Raise the alarm here. Could attack, but they'll just block, so. Attack. So one of the things I've noticed with the budget build when I've been working on the railroad, so to speak, was kind of the lack of the early one drops really kind of hurts when you're trying to leverage this as a more aggressive base thing rather than say a Skull Slinger deck. This deck does a little bit of both, but next turn.
The sky is my domain.
Stonecouch Mentor is a very nice one for the style deck when you're trying to mix like a little bit of defense with a little bit of offense. It's got one free block. I'm surprised they're going that route.
Take to the sky,
Control
my
have
friend.
tap, draw a card. Not particularly relevant against our decks. playing against a lot of mono blue decks lately for some reason. Whether it was the stream the other night and I played against like Gadwick and I can't remember what the other one was. I think Jace.
Your temper.
As I said, Jace, the final frontier. So, kill that. Pearly balls? Sure. It's actually the first win I picked up. Well, not the first win, but this deck doesn't win a ton, so. Alright, playing against Tiamat, ironically a deck I played the other night. I was playing Tiamat Giants, not Tiamat Dragons. This hand does not have a 1-drop, but we do have Canyon into either Emulator or Balmor, so do you think we keep this one? This deck very much, at least the way I'm trying to build it, very much wants, you know, untapped lands and a whole bunch of other stuff, so. Terrible problem with a 5-color good stuff deck is you're never quite sure what's going on over there. So they could have ramp, they could have a number of things really. Actually, that kind of punished us a little bit, so we'll just go ahead and attack, see if they do anything. One of those decks that, like, its final form, the way I'm trying to build it, with this kind of like mix of prowess and like token creators and cantrips and everything, you know, ultimately wants mainly untapped lands, you know, as many 1-drops, you know, obviously this deck has things like Waymaster and Swiftspear, but it really wants things like Ragavan and Soul Guide, or Soul. It's not a terrible one. How do I live without you? So Tiamat could come down next. No, Tiamat can't come down next turn, so Wash Away is kind of irrelevant. Play this one. Classification. Target that. Obviously, it's a lot better when you're playing a lot of instants and sorceries, and this deck has, well, a decent amount, you know, it doesn't play Brainstorm, doesn't play, you know, some of the rares and stuff, so you have a little bit more. Oh my. Boys. Luca Bound to Ruin. Missing red mana. I guess we got a mulligan. Very slow hand, but I do think we'd try it. Keep Luca Bound to Ruin. Okay. Well, Ragavan on one certainly is not exactly ideal for the home team. Is not one of them. Okay, here's going on, although I don't think it'll be around long. Mana on turn 3.
The Multiverse is our hunting ground.
I think you're seeing like the issues with, you know, playing the obviously budget-friendly version of this deck. You know, this deck needs to be the way you'd want to play Narset if you're not playing it in like a Spellslinger combo deck. If you're trying to do it like a prowess pseudo Spellslinger deck, you know, you need the early drops, you need the untapped mana, you need to be like curving out the early turns, you know, playing slick shots and Quarry Steel Cutters and, you know, interacting with your opponent's board and, you know, doing things like that to have a prayer, and then you have things like Path and Swords to Plowshares and the more efficient, unfortunately very rare heavy build of the deck. But I don't think the idea of the deck is terrible. It just definitely needs some work. Thing deals combat to a player. Why didn't they attack with that? Okay. much here. Problem with this one, just have no creatures. So more than that one. Try this one, although it's not a ton better, to be honest. Could have played Saheeli there.
My creations are things of beauty.
One more thing.
Innovation knows no bounds. I will return.
Can we cross the finish line? Probably not. Yes, we can hold on to that. Soul Captures. Now we're at least starting to kind of do what I envisioned the deck doing. Oh, should attack with both there. nonsense. Sweeper and then we die. Nope, just bring back get lost. It's supposed to be hard casting Narset for the third time. Alright, so taking a look at this deck both as a kind of a quasi-deck tech and a wrap-up. We kind of talked about it throughout the excursion here. The thought process with this video was draft, find a legend, build a draft deck out of it, play a game of draft, hope to run into our legend, and then take the legend and build a Brawl deck out of it. Now, a couple things going on here with Narset. Number one, there aren't too many decks with Narset built around it. I think the couple that I found were mainly Spellslinger decks, trying to go a little bit bigger. I think the way that I personally want to try to leverage something like Narset Jeskai Waymaster, it's kind of like how it's played in Modern with the Corey Steel deck. Basically, you play a ton of cheap things, you try to play a bunch of spells in a turn, slot your hand, you know, kind of do this, like, constant bring back, go to the graveyard, bring back, go to the graveyard, bring back, or discarding things. I don't know that I did the best job with the original, this iteration. I think for this style of deck, you want a whole lot more in the way of one drops. The problem with this is I was trying to go with the sub theme of like a Magecraft prowess and generating tokens. You know, things like Saheeli, things like you know, things like Young Pyromancer, the Third Path Iconoclast, you know, Murmuring Mystic, and then hopefully finishing off with things like, you know, Scurry of Gremlins, Heroic Reinforcements, Imidane's Recruiter. So the thought process with this deck is to just make as many, you know, put an early prowess creature or two on the board, put a token creature out there, and then ideally you have this kind of like Spellslinger prowess turn where you know, play like 2 or 3 spells, maybe clear your opponent's biggest blocker out of the way, get in for some damage, you know, have Narset on the battlefield, like, you know, you've played 3 spells, pitch a land, draw 3 cards, and you just kind of try to keep this chain going. Now, a couple of things with this build. Number one, a lot of the good early prowess creatures and early spells, even when playing, you know, Lightning Bolt, Path to Exile, Swords to Plowshares, you know, Soul Scarred Mage, Corey Steel Cutter, you know, not Storm Chaser's Talent. I mean, even Storm Chaser's Talent, you know, a lot of the things that give you early prowess creatures and kind of, you know, really accelerate the aggressive game plan are all rares on Arena. So I tried the best that I could here. You know, we're playing things like Clever Luminancer, Symmetry Sage, you know, Monastery Swift Spear obviously didn't really show up in these things. You know, we're playing a lot of like okay one-ofs, but they're not the most powerful. And as you see, we have way more. Look at the breakdown. We have, you know, 14 1-drops, 29 2-drops, 10 6 2. I really think in order for this to swing, when you really need this 1-drop slot to go, and you know, we need to be playing things like Chrome Mox, Ragavan. You know, I really think this style of deck has, you know, and then playing the better versions of Return Triumphant, whether that be Jolt Awake, whether that be, you know, there's a lot of different things you could play with this deck that just feel like, you know, we could be playing better versions. You know, like Stroke of Midnight, Angelic Purge, Touch the Spirit Realm. All these are kind of very clunky ways of dealing with bigger creatures, you know, as opposed to Path and whatchamacallit. And then there's a we played it in Balin. Peace and Unseen Feast. Patriarch's Humiliation. You know, there's a lot of things you can play that just make the deck a lot more powerful. And then the other thing, we're playing a budget mana base. There isn't a single rare in this mana base right now. I played, you know, a bunch of the basics, one each of the deserts that come in and ping your opponent. I mean, tap lands aren't great in this deck, but at least they do the thing, helping a damage thing. Mystic Monastery, you know, helps a little bit with the mana fixing. Command Tower is probably our best deck land in the deck. Following Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse kind of do a quasi fetch land base, but not really great. So, you know, I like the idea of what this deck is trying to do. I just really think that in order to really leverage the deck, that you're going to need to play like the maxed out version. So, for those of you who have watched this long in the video, I do have a couple of questions. One, is this an interesting video idea where you draft and you try to do something or try to find a legend in your draft and then turn it into a Brawl deck? And two, you know, do we want to like continue this series with a deck? You know, say play the basic version, you know, maybe upgrade it with a couple of rares, play it a couple more, almost like as if you were, you know, this was your first Brawl deck and this is how you decided to build it, and then you add like a couple of rares, maybe a mythic, power up the deck a little bit, play it some more, power up the deck and play it some more. Or do we would just, if there was a follow-up video, would we just want to go straight to as close to max power as we can get with, like, you know, the, I don't want to say the pimped out version, but like the fetch lands, the shock lands, all the 1-drop prowess creatures, the 2-drop prowess creatures, the premier removal. Which pathway are you interested in seeing? Is it the kind of slow build of a deck for maybe a month or so, you know, where we add some rares, build it up, add some rares, build it up, do it over like 4 or 5 weeks? Or is this a, you know, we do this and then the next video is like the fully powered version of the deck, as far as I envision how the deck would play out? I really think Narset, this version of Narset, has a lot of potential. I think, though, you really have to play a very low curve. You know, if this were Commander, you know, you'd be playing things like, you know, Mox Opal and Mox Amber and Mishra's Bauble and, you know, 1-mana artifacts and stuff that you can really, you know, the trigger prowess, the trigger Narset, you know, you still get some value out of it later. So this card has a huge amount of potential, and I don't think it's been explored enough, at least from what I've seen. But yeah, as always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you like Brawl content, and let me know what you think about this style of video series, in addition to just being intermixed with the different Brawl style normal videos. So see you for next video.